This is Lecture 127 in the ABCs of Communism series that accompanies Volume 7. And our topic this time is Bagration Operation South, that is the liberation of Eastern Europe. And we'll be beginning with Romania liberated. Now you will recall that on the 22nd of June 1941, German armies with Romanian support attacked the Soviet Union. And together they had conquered Bessarabia, Odessa, and Sevastopol, then marched eastward to Stalingrad. Romania mustered more combat troops for the Nazi war effort than all of Germany's other allies combined. The total number of troops involved on the Eastern Front with the Romanian Third Army and the Romanian Fourth Army was second only to that of Nazi Germany itself, so the Romanian army had a total of 686,258 men under arms in the summer of 1941, and by the summer of 1944 they had 1,224,691. Throughout the fascist dictatorship of Ion and Mihai Antonescu, Romania supplied Nazi Germany and the Axis armies with oil, grain, and industrial products. Numerous train stations, such as the Gara de Nord in Bucharest, served as transit points for Nazi troops departing for combat on Soviet soil. In December of 1943, the Soviet Dnieper-Carpathian offensive pushed Axis forces all the way back to the Dniester by April of 44. By 1944, the Romanian economy was in sad shape. Initial gains for its capitalists had been lost to the advancing Red Army. Strategic air attacks on its industry and Bucharest left the Romanian people in misery. Much oil, grain, and equipment sent to Germany was not paid for, as Hitler blamed the Antonescu gang for letting the Red Army surround his reinforced Sixth Army at Stalingrad in their counterattack that broke through the Romanian lines north and south of the Germans' concentration there on the Volga. In May of 1944, what was left of fascist Romania's armed forces and 500,000 Krauts of the German Eighth Army prepared to confront the USSR. On the 20th of August 1944, the Red Army launched the Jassy-Kishinev offensive that resulted in a quick and decisive Soviet breakthrough, collapsing the German-Romanian front. On the 21st of August 44, the Red Army captured Targu Frumos, the town of Iasi, on 21 August, and Chisinau on the 24th of August. Now, an international commission report released by the Romanian government in 2004 documented the systematic murder of 380,000 Jews in the territories of Bessarabia, Bukovina, and Transnistria by the Antonescu fascist regime. Of the 25,000 Romani, gypsies, deported to concentration camps in Transnistria, 11,000 were killed. The report, commissioned and accepted by the Romanian government in 2004 on the Holocaust, concluded, quote, "Of all the allies of Nazi Germany, Romania bears responsibility for the deaths of more Jews than any country other than Germany itself. The murders committed in Iasi, Odessa, Bogdanovka, Domanovka, and Pecora were among the most hideous murders committed against Jews anywhere during the Holocaust," unquote. During the Iasi pogrom of June 41, over 12,000 Jews were massacred on trains traveling back and forth slowly across the countryside. After these initial killings, Jews in Moldavia, Bukovina, and Bessarabia were subject to frequent pogroms. Others were sent to Nazi concentration camps, including camps built and run by Romanians. 250,000 Jews and 25,000 Romani were murdered in these eastern regions, while 120,000 of Transylvania's 150,000 Jews died at the hands of the Krauts. Romanian soldiers also worked with the Einsatzkommando German killing squads that massacred Jews and Roma in conquered territories. Romanian troops were in large part responsible for the Odessa massacre, in which over 100,000 Jews were shot during the autumn of 1941. On 23 August 1944, with the Red Army penetrating German defenses during the Jassy-Kishinev offensive, the partisan groups gained support. Soviet occupation and capture of about 130,000 Romanian soldiers led to unconditional surrender to the USSR. That night, border clashes between Hungarian and Romanian troops erupted immediately. On the 24th of August 1944, German troops tried to seize Bucharest, but were repelled by the city's defenses. The Red Army, that was now advancing at an even greater speed, liquidated other Wehrmacht units. Red Romanian units attacked German garrisons at the Ploesti oil fields, forcing them to retreat to Hungary. The new Red Romanian Army captured over 50,000 German prisoners who were later handed to the Soviets. After August 1944, the new Red Romanian Army fought against the Wehrmacht alongside the Soviet Red Army in Transylvania, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Austria, and Czechoslovakia. On the 5th of September 1944, Soviet and Romanian forces entered Transylvania and captured the towns of Brasov and Sibiu while advancing toward the Mureș River. Their main objective was Cluj, the historical capital of Transylvania. The Second Hungarian Army, together with the 8th German Army, engaged them in the Battle of Turda that lasted until 8 October. A combined Romanian-Soviet counterattack overwhelmed the Hungarians, and they evacuated Arad on 21 September. In May 1945, the 1st and 4th Armies took part in the Prague Offensive. The Romanian Army incurred heavy casualties fighting Nazi Germany. Of some 538 Romanian soldiers who fought against the Axis in 44-45, some 167,000 were killed, wounded, or went missing. Now, then Bulgaria is liberated. On the 26th of August 1944, the Central Committee of the Bulgarian Workers' Party directed its cadre to take power by means of popular uprising. The Central Committee of the BWP and the General Staff of the People's Liberation Revolt Army commenced on 5 September planning the seizure. The plan was complete by 8 September, and the plan featured the coordinated actions of the partisans, the BWP combat groups, and the Fatherland Front, army detachments seizing power during the night of 9 September. On 5 September 44, the USSR declared war on fascist Bulgaria. The accompanying People's Revolt featured demonstrations, strikes in many cities and villages. From the 6th to the 7th of September, government power was taken by BWP fighters in Varna, Burgas, and many smaller towns. It began with strikes of the Pernik miners and the Sofia streetcar employees, and then general strikes in Plodiv and Gabrovo. The prisons in Pleven, Varna, and Sliven had their political prisoners released. 170 localities were entered by partisan detachments. In many cities and villages, the strikes and meetings grew into armed clashes with the police. On the 8th of September, the 3rd Ukrainian Front Army Group of the Soviet Red Army entered Bulgaria, meeting with no opposition on the order of the new Bulgarian Red government. On 9 September 1944, the popular uprising took that country from its alliance with Hitler into an alliance with the USSR. Led by Bulgarian communists, it marked the beginning of revolution towards socialism. The uprising took a political form called the Fatherland Front, led by the Bulgarian communists under Kimon Georgiev. Switching sides were pro-FF, pro-Fatherland Front units of the Bulgarian army, joined by the Bulgarian partisans. The uprising's military was labeled the People's Liberation Revolt Army. Bulgaria became a People's Democratic Republic after a 1946 referendum, and Stalinist socialism got underway. They captured essential locations in Sofia, including the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Post Office, the Telegraph Office, the radio station, and the railway station. The new Prime Minister, Kimon Georgiev, informed the people on the radio, quote, with the complete awareness that it is a true and full voice of the popular will, the Fatherland Front assumes in that fateful hour and difficult conditions the government of the country in order to save it from destruction. Unquote. Now, by order of the People's Liberation Revolt Army Commander-in-Chief Dobry Turpashev, all partisan units descended from the mountains and assumed power in the villages and cities. In most places, this was not met with much resistance. In other places, army and police detachments loyal to the old fascist government put up violent resistance to the Fatherland Front forces. In Sofia, Plovdiv, the region of Perm, Shumen, and Haskovo, the old regime's supporters were defeated by our military forces. The final establishment of the new leadership happened in Haskovo, where partisans and other anti-fascists seized the artillery barracks, taking many casualties. The Bulgarian communists were capable of seizing Sofia without any aid, so Soviet Red Army commanders decided not to hurry with the seizure of the capital. On the 10th of September 1944, the former Prime Minister Konstantin Muraviev was arrested, as were Tsar Simeon II's regents, members of the former government, and sub-army detachment heads, and the old police force was abolished and replaced with a popular militia of partisans. Over 8,000 political prisoners were released from fascist prisons and concentration camps, and then these were closed. The fascist organizations were banned, as were their publications. The government of Kimon Georgiev established in December 44 the People's Court, according to the International Delegation of Bulgaria, to condemn persons guilty for World War II. 30,000 people were arrested in the first 4 months after the liberation of Bulgaria. The Bulgarian Workers' Party was renamed Communist Party. It consolidated its leading role, leading the country onto the pathway to socialism. Bulgaria had a new republican constitution after the successful republic referendum in 1946. And the Krauts run for it. In August of 43, the German Wehrmacht had 2 army formations deployed in the Balkans, Army Group E in Greece and 2nd Panzer Army in Yugoslavia and Albania. Army Group F, headquarters in Belgrade, acted as a joint high command for these formations, as well as for Bulgarian and Quisling formations. After the Bulgarian and Romanian liberation, Berlin ordered its Army Group E to withdraw into Hungary. There, Yugoslav partisans and Allied air forces impeded German movement. With the Red Army on Serbia's borders, the Krauts put together available elements of Army Group E and the 2nd Panzer Army, renaming it Army Group Serbia. Kimon Georgiev's new Hungarian government declared war on Germany. 4 Bulgarian armies of 455,000 men were mobilized into the new Red Bulgarian Army. In early October 1944, 3 Bulgarian armies of around 340,000 men were sent to the Yugoslav-Bulgarian border. And that brings us to the Belgrade strategic offensive that went on from 14 September 44 through the 24th of November 44. Belgrade, Yugoslavia was liberated from the Wehrmacht through the joint efforts of the Soviet Red Army, Yugoslav partisans, and the Bulgarian People's Army. Soviet forces and local militias launched separate but cooperative operations that undermined German control of Belgrade and ultimately forced their retreat. Military plans and operations were coordinated between Joseph Broz Tito and Joseph Stalin. These plans and operations allowed Bulgarian forces to engage in operations throughout Yugoslav territory. Now, the primary objectives of the Belgrade offensive centered on lifting the German occupation of Serbia, seizing Belgrade as a strategic holdout in the Balkans, and severing German communication lines between Greece and Hungary. Now, the spearhead of the offensive was executed by the Soviet Third Ukrainian Front, or Army Group, in coordination with the Yugoslav First Army Group and 14th Army Corps. Simultaneous operations involved the Bulgarian Second Army and Yugoslav 13th Army Corps, and the Second Ukrainian Front northwards from the Yugoslav-Bulgarian border put the Nazis in a nutcracker. Skirmishes between Bulgarian forces and Kraut anti-partisan regiments in Macedonia occurred in the campaign's southernmost combat operations. In Hungary, on the 26th of December 1944, the Red Army and the Romanian Army invaded. Budapest was unconditionally surrendered on 13 February 45. During the siege, about 38,000 civilians died because of the military action or from starvation. In June of 1944, in Yugoslavia, Josip Tito began to reinforce the border regions of Bosnia and Montenegro. The Krauts fought back with a series of large-scale assaults. Then the next month, in July of 44, German defenses began to disintegrate after the failure of their Operation Daredevil in Montenegro, Yugoslavia, and northern Albania. 3 divisions of the People's Liberation Army of Yugoslavia, NOVJ or NOVJ, crossed the Abar River, threatening the main Nazi railroad lines. After the Kraut failure in Montenegro in August of 44, 2 additional NOVJ divisions broke through the German blockade, taking western Siberia. Kraut Army Group F deployed the 1st Mountain Division in Serbia and the 4th SS Panzer Grenadier Division from Thessalonica. Now, in August 1944, developments in Romania confronted Army Group F with the necessity of an immediate large-scale concentration of troops and weapons into Serbia. Now, the Allied Command and the Novje Supreme Command expected this, thanks to Stalin's intelligence service, and they were well prepared. So on the 1st of September 1944, a ground and air assault on Kraut transport lines and installations was launched. Now, these attacks paralyzed Nazi troop movements. In the meantime, the 1st Proletarian Corps, that was the name of the main partisan formation in Serbia, continued reinforcing and building its forces, preparing for the assault on Belgrade. Then on 18 September 44, Valjevo was taken, and on the 20th of September, Aradelovac. Partisans achieved control over large areas south and southwest of Belgrade, thus forming the basis for the future advance towards Belgrade. On the 21st of September 1944, arriving in Soviet Romania was Josip Tito. His task was preparatory operations to be coordinated between the Soviets and his Yugoslav partisans. From there, Tito flew to Moscow to meet directly with Stalin. The 2 allies reached an agreement concerning the participation of Bulgarian troops in the operation that would be conducted on Yugoslav territory. The Soviet 17th Air Army of the 3rd Ukrainian Front, or Army Group, was ordered to impede the withdrawal of German troops from Greece and southern regions of Yugoslavia. To do so, it carried out air attacks on the railroad bridges and other important facilities in the area of Nis, Skopje, and Kruševo, lasting from 15 to 21 September. On the 30th of September 44, the Red Army 3rd Ukrainian Front troops were concentrated at the Bulgarian-Yugoslav border. The Soviet 57th Army was stationed in the Vidin area, and the Bulgarian 2nd Red Army, under the operational command of the 3rd Ukrainian Front, or Army Group, was stationed to the south on the Nis rail line at the junction of the Bulgarian, Yugoslav, and Greek borders. Then the partisans' 1st Army from Yugoslavia arrived to provide support to their 13th and 14th Corps, collaborating in the liberation of Nis and supporting the 57th Army's advance to Belgrade. The Red Army 2nd Ukrainian Front's 46th Army was deployed in the area of Romania's Taragova River, poised to cut the rail link between Belgrade and Hungary to the north of Vršac. The Yugoslavs had to break through German defensive positions on the Yugoslav-Bulgarian border to gain control of roads and mountain passages through eastern Serbia. Then they would enter the valley of the Great Morava River and forge a bridgehead on the western bank. Assigned this task was the 57th Army, and the Yugoslav 14th Army Corps was ordered to cooperate and support the Red Army attack behind the front line. After the successful completion of the first stage, the plan was to deploy the 4th Guards Mechanized Corps to the bridgehead on the west bank. This corps, with its tanks, heavy weapons, and impressive firepower, was compatible with the Yugoslav 1st Army Group, which had significant concentrated manpower, but was armed mainly with light infantry weapons. Once joined, these 2 formations were ordered to execute the main attack on Belgrade from the south. The advantages of this plan were the possibility of the rapid deployment of forces in the critical final stage of the offensive, and the possibility of cutting off German troops in eastern Siberia from their main forces. So, the first phase began in January 1944. Partisan operational units left the northern part of East Serbia under pressure from occupiers and auxiliary forces. Bulgarian garrisons, some German police forces, and Serbian Quisling troops, all under German command, and Chetniks, mostly commanded by agreements with the Germans, remained in the area. In July of 44, partisan forces made up of the 23rd and 25th Divisions returned to the central parts of East Serbia, forming a free territory. It had an airstrip at Sokobanja for landing arms and ammunition, and allowing evacuation of the wounded. The latter included my Uncle Wally, who was severely wounded fighting as OSS liaison with Tito. And in that fight, the partisans were better positioned and faster. I might add that in 1946, I guess I was about 4 years old, we visited my uncle in the Army Hospital in Omaha. I recall that he was all bandaged up, looked to me like, looking back on it, as like he was getting cast for a mummy movie. And that was the second time he'd been blown up. First time with Tito. Second time was by the Krauts at the Battle of the Bulge. Well, anyway, he went on to become an attorney for the Highway Department in Idaho. My father got him a job when my dad was Attorney General there. But at any rate, let's get back to our story. In August 44, Army Group F Commander Field Marshal Maximilian von Weichs ordered his mobile forces in Serbia to attack and combat the partisans. These included the 4th SS Police Division, the 1st Mountain Division, the 92nd Motorized Regiment, the 4th Brandenburg Regiment, the 191st Assault Brigade, and the 486th Armored Reconnaissance Troop. He then ordered the 11th Luftwaffe Field Division, the 22nd Infantry, the 117th, the 104th Jaeger Division, and the 18th SS Mountain Police Regiment to advance to Macedonia. So, on the 3rd of September 1944, a new 45th Serbian Division was formed, and on the 6th of September 44, the 14th Corps headquarters was established as High Command for the area of operations. That day, the Kraut 1st Mountain Division was withdrawn from operations against partisans in Montenegro and was transported to the Nis area and placed under the command of General Hans Felber, tasked with re-establishing control on the Bulgarian border. On the 7th of September 44, Tito's 23rd Division fought a fierce battle with German police battalions and auxiliary forces to take Zajekar. On the 9th of September 1944, the Kraut 1st Mountain Division reached Zajekar. In the next week, partisans launched attacks to deny them access to the Danube at Negotin. On the 12th of September 44, Communist rebels entered Negotin while the 25th Division attacked Donji Milanovac simultaneously. Volunteers were joining the Red units in large number, increasing their size. That day, near Negotin, a Novje delegation crossed the Danube to the Romanian side and established contact with the Red Army's 74th Rifle Division. The Novje delegation was accompanied to Romanian territory by the 1st Battalion of the 9th Serbian Brigade. In addition, on 12 September, elements of the 75th Rifle Corps established contact with the partisans on the other side of the Danube. Then, attack by 3 Army Corps allowed the Red Army to gain supremacy on the combat line and to advance in spite of the stubborn German defense. By 15 September 44, the Krauts took Zajekar and reached the Danube at the area where the main attack was expected. The 7th SS Division of the 2nd Panzer Army attacked partisan units moving to Siberia from eastern Bosnia and Sanjak. On the 16th of December, the next day, when Red Army forces did not cross over from Romania as expected, the 14th Corps decided to abandon its defense of the Danube coastline and to focus on attacking German columns maneuvering elsewhere. On the 21st of September 1944, the 7th SS Division was ordered to an offensive against the partisans in western Serbia. However, due to the deteriorating situation on the eastern border, this offensive was canceled. On the 22nd of September 44, the 1st Mountain Division mounted an attack on the left bank of the Danube. Its objective was Iron Gates. However, it failed when the 75th Corps of the Red Army, advancing in the opposite direction, launched an attack on the division. On the 30th of September 44, the 7th SS Division was transferred to southeast Serbia to guard the southern part of the Serbian front line between Zaječar and Vranje. This enabled the 1st Mountain Division to concentrate on the north between Zaječar and Iron Gates. The 92nd Motorized Regiment, the 2nd Brandenburg, and the 18th SS Mountain Police Regiment strengthened the 1st Mountain Division. Both added men from sections of German units withdrawn from Romania and Bulgaria, as well as from local formations. After the Iasi-Kishinev operation, a wide and deep prospect opened in front of the Red Army. This started a race between the Soviets and the Germans to the Blue Line, an intended front line running from the southern slopes of the Carpathians over the Iron Gates down the Yugoslav-Bulgarian border. By the end of September, the 2nd and 3rd Ukrainian fronts, army groups, deployed 19 rifle divisions with supporting units to the Blue Line. This compared to 91 rifle divisions in the Iasi-Kishinev operation was remarkable even so because of the poor terrain and damaged roads. Kraut Army Group F encountered much larger problems than they did. Thus the Red Army achieved substantial superiority in numbers on the Blue Line by the end of September. On the 30th of September 44, Negotin was liberated and heavy fighting erupted in Zaječar. The fight broke down into a number of skirmishes for the strong points in towns and on the crossroads and passes, and the Germans in the end were forced to withdraw. The 14th Corps Novje won control over communications behind the front line, and the commander of the 57th Army sent his Chief of Staff, Major General Verkolovich, to the 14th Corps headquarters to coordinate actions. On 1 October 44, after a fierce battle, the 223rd Division of the 68th Corps seized an important crossroad in the village of Rogatina, 6 miles to the north of Zaječar. On the 2nd of October, another important crossroads at Stubik fell. On the 3rd of October, parts of the 223rd Division and the 7th and 9th Serbian Brigade of the 23rd Division, Novje, liberated Bor. Bor was especially important because of its large copper mine. In Bor, the 7th and 9th Brigade liberated some 1,700 forced laborers, mostly Jews, from Hungary. By 4 October, the Soviets' 57th Army had split the Krauts into 3 groups with no contact with each other. Group Groth, holding Zaječar, was the southernmost battle group. Group Fischer held the middle, and Battle Group Stettner held mountain ground further north. The Red Command postponed a decisive final attack on these German battle groups to use their available men and materiel to exploit the open roads with tanks and motorized infantry for deeper penetration. On 7 October, the 64th Rifle Corps units, together with elements of the 45th Division Novje, finally managed to break the steadfast resistance of Battle Group Groth and took Zaječar. At the same time, owing to great efforts by engineering units, the 4th Guards Mechanized Corps transports reached the Vidin area. That day, the 5th Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade, reinforced with a self-propelled artillery regiment and an anti-tank regiment, marched from Negotin over Rogatina and Zagubica to Svilajanic. In 24 hours, the brigade performed a 72-mile-long march maneuver, reaching the Great Morava Valley on 8th of October, leaving German frontline forces far behind. On the 9th of October, the Red 93rd Rifle Division broke into the Great Morava Valley through Petrovac. Its commander formed a special task force to secure the bridge there that was key to the Red success in the remaining offensive operations. and he appointed Captain Liskov to command of this special force, ordering him to capture the only 30-ton bridge over the river near the village of Donje Livadice. Captain Liskov's group surprised the Krauts and prevented them from mining the bridge. The next day, on 10 October, the 93rd Rifle Division and the 5th Motorized Brigade secured the bridgehead on the west bank of the Great Morava River. On the 12th of October, after crossing the bridge in the area of Natalinci, 8 miles east of Topola, the 4th Guards Mechanized Corps 2.5-ton troop trucks met the 4th Brigade of the 21st Serbian Division Novje. The 4th Guards Mechanized Corps, with its 160 tanks, 21 self-propelled guns, 31 armored cars, and 366 guns and mortars, had impressive firepower. Together with the Yugoslav 1st Proletarian Corps, concentrated in the area, the 4th Guards Mechanized Corps formed the main attack force for the direct assault on Belgrade. With this concentration of forces in the area west of the Great Morava River, the first phase of the offensive concluded. Now we go to the second phase. On the 10th of October, 1944, Kraut Army Group F Command acknowledged that the Red Army had opened a hole in their front line and had penetrated the Great Morava Valley. These Soviet forces threatened to proceed with a direct attack on Belgrade, cutting off the 1st Mountain Division that was still stuck in combat in East Serbia, and to attack it from the rear. Kraut Command lacked troops and tanks to close the hole, and had no reserves coming. It was forced to ask for more troops from 2nd Panzer Army, but that army was in no better shape. 2nd Panzer had just lost every town it had occupied. The truth was that Berlin could do nothing to save their forces in Yugoslavia. On the 12th of October, the Armored Brigade, supported by the 15th Brigade of the 47th Partisan Division, took Leskovac with the Bulgarian Reconnaissance Battalion, crossing the Morava River and probing toward Nis. The goal was for the Bulgarian Second Army to begin the liberation of Kosovo. This would cut the escape route north for the German Army Group F, withdrawing from Greece. On the 17th of October, 5 days later, the leading units of the Bulgarian army reached Kursumilja and proceeded to Kursumilja Banja. On 15 November, after negotiating the Pripolic Pass with heavy losses, the brigade occupied Puduhevo, but was unable to reach Pristina until the 21st of November. The Red Army's 2nd Ukrainian Front, supporting 46th Army, advanced to outflank the Germans at Belgrade from the north by cutting the river and rail supply lines running along the Tisa. Supported by the 5th Air Army, its 10th Guards Rifle Corps crossed the Tamas and Tisa rivers north of Pančevo, threatening the Belgrade-Novi Sad Railroad. Further north, the Red Army's 31st Guards Rifle Corps advanced toward Petrovgrad. The 37th Rifle Corps crossed the Tisa to threaten the stretch of railway between Novi Sad and Subotica, and prepared for the planned Budapest strategic offensive operation. On the 12th of October, of the whole area between Kragujevac and Sava, with the exception of Belgrade, the Germans held only solitary strongholds in Sabac, Obrenovac, Topola, and Mladenovac, while the areas in between were under the control of Novje. After the liberation of Valjevo, divisions of the 12th Corps and 6th Division and scattered Chetniks pushed back German battle group von Jugenfeld south of Sabac and entered the area between Belgrade and Obrenovac. On that day, all of the 4th Guards Mechanized Corps was concentrated to the west of Topola, preparing to cross the Great Morava River Valley. The main direction of attack along a line between Topola and Belgrade was entrusted to the 36th Tank Brigade, the 13th and 14th Guards Mechanized Brigade of the Red Army, and to the 1st, 5th, and 21st Divisions of Noje. The 15th Guards Mechanized Brigade, reinforced by the 5th Independent Mechanized Brigade, 2 artillery regiments, and the 1st Brigade of 5th Division Novje, was striking right toward the Danube and Smederevo. On the 12th of October, the battle to take Belgrade got underway, and by the nightfall of 13 October, the right flank attack on the 15th Guard Mechanized Brigade and the 1st Brigade of 5th Division allowed Novje to reach the Danube near Bolek. The Kraut-Brandenburg force was split into two separate groups. One was the Belgrade garrison to the west. The other was the group retreating from Smederevo in eastern Siberia. Running with them was the 1st Mountain Division, the 2nd Brandenburg Regiment, and Stettner's men cut off and facing destruction. Efforts by this group to break through and to establish a link with the Belgrade garrison resulted in fierce fighting. In the following days, the 21st and 23rd Divisions of Novje were deployed to strengthen positions and to prevent the Nazis from reuniting. The 36th Tank Brigade led an attack in the main direction, with the 4th Battalion of the 4th Serbian Brigade riding on its tanks. The 36th headed toward Topola. Parts of the 5th Division Novje of the 10th Krajina Brigade were attacking the Topola garrison from the west when tanks of the 36th Tank Brigade suddenly appeared from the east. The Krauts were overrun and their order disintegrated. The 36th Tank Brigade continued northwards and 5 miles north of Topola smashed a Kraut assault gun battalion. The 36th Tank Brigade overran the Nazis and proceeded to the north. Before 13 October, the 3rd and 4th Krajina Brigade of Novje and the 36th Tank Brigade overran the garrison at Mladenovac, the last important obstacle, thus opening the way to Belgrade. On the 14th of October, the 4th Guards Mechanized Corps of the Red Army and the Yugoslav 12th Corps broke through the enemy resistance south of Belgrade and approached the city. The Yugoslavs advanced along the road in the direction of Belgrade south of the Sava River, while the Red Army engaged in fighting on the northern bank outskirts. The elimination of thousands of German troops between Belgrade and Smederevo to the southeast made overrunning Belgrade a simpler task. On the 20th of October, Belgrade was fully liberated by joint Soviet and Yugoslav forces. The Yugoslav 13th Corps, in cooperation with the Bulgarian Second Army, advanced from the southeast to Nis and Leskovac, cutting off the evacuation of Army Group E along the South Morava and Morava rivers. Army Group E was forced to retreat through the mountains of Montenegro and Bosnia, unable to reinforce Nazi units in Hungary. The Soviet 10th Guard Rifle Corps of the 46th Army 2nd Ukrainian Front, together with units of the Yugoslav partisans moving via the Danube, provided more offensive strength from the northeast against the Kraut's position in Belgrade. They cleared the left bank of the Tisa and Danube in Yugoslavia and took the town of Pančevo. By 30 September, the 1st Army, 100,000 strong, together with the Bulgarian 2nd, 3rd, and elements of its 4th armies, was in full-scale combat against the Nazi army along the Bulgarian-Yugoslav border. The Krauts confronted Tito's guerrillas on their left flank and a Soviet force on their right of 340,000 men. The 1st Army took part in the Bulgarian army's advance northwards into the Balkan Peninsula with logistical support and under the command of the Red Army. The 1st Army advanced into Serbia, Hungary, and Austria in the spring of 45, despite heavy casualties and bad conditions in the winter. During 44-45, the Bulgarian 1st Army was commanded by Lieutenant General Vladimir Stoichev. Upon completion of the Belgrade operation by the 57th Army, with the Yugoslav 51st Division in November, the bridgehead in Baranja on the left bank of the Danube was taken, causing an acute crisis for the German defense. The bridgehead served as a platform for the massive concentration of 3rd Ukrainian Front battle group troops for the Budapest offensive. The Red Army's 68th Rifle Corps participated in the battles on the Kraljevo bridgehead and the Sirmian Front until mid-December and were then transferred to Baranja. The Red Army Air Force Group Vitruk provided air support on the Yugoslav front until the end of December. The Yugoslav First Army Group continued to push German forces westwards for some 60 miles through Srem, where the Krauts managed to build a front by 15 December of 44. Having lost Belgrade and the Great Morava Valley, Nazi Army Group E was forced to fight for a passage through the mountains of Sandžak and Bosnia. Its first units did not reach Drava until 15 February of 45. In the next lecture, we shall review the Battle for Berlin that begins with the liberation of Austria and Czechoslovakia. And that brings us to a conclusion of this particular lecture.